Right now, we are at historically low tax rates. The average effective tax rate in this country is the lowest it's been since the early 80s. So now you're deferring taxes. You're not paying taxes on money now at historically low rates. When something's historically low, what's the only place you can go? Up. So now I'm gonna not pay tax on $100 at a low rate. That $100 is gonna grow to $300, and I'm gonna take it out, I'm gonna pay a higher tax on $300. My name is Jim Capuano. I am the owner and president of the Integrity Life Brokerage. I've been in the insurance industry since 2007, and right now we are the leading firm in launching the brand, The Great American Retirement Myth, which is to re-educate, retrain, and reprogram people's thinking about the proper way to set up your retirement in this country.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come on. I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. I, while I don't have a necessarily financial background, I've always been incredibly interested in the finance industry, all aspects of it. So I'm very much looking forward to having this conversation.
No, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about what you were just talking about, redefining the myth of retirement. What does that actually mean?
I realized in my, almost 19 years now of being in the financial industry is people have their retirement plan in their mind and they do it without ever really thinking of the ramifications or their own personal preference. They do it because it's easy, they do it because it's what they're told to do, and they blindly follow instructions without ever questioning those instructions.
What would be an example of that?
Contributing to your 401k. It's the most popular way people save for their retirement. But when I talk to people on a personal level about what their preference is in retirement, everything that they tell me steers clear of what a 401k provides.
In what example, what would that mean? Like just
So
practically?
I do seminars for this all over, done dozens of them, hundreds of presentations on this. And I always start with this example and I write 5, 15, and 20 up on a board. I didn't come up with this. I saw this at a presentation at a conference years and years ago. And I was like, that makes sense. So I write 5, 15, and 20 on a board. And I ask them if they know what it means. And they say, obviously, no, it's just 3 numbers on a board. And I tell them it's the simplest explanation of retirement they're ever going to hear. 5 is $5. It's what you invest in your retirement. 15 is $15. It's what the investment grows by. And 20 is what your total is, the 5 and the 15. It's what you take out in retirement. So you invest 5, it grows by 15, you take out 20.
Should we add 12 in there because the government takes another?
That's basically the whole concept here is everyone says, all right, that kind of makes sense. It's very simplified, but that's basically how it works. And then I ask him, if you get to choose to pay tax on one of these numbers, which one would you choose?
Hmm.
And everyone says, oh, obviously the 5. Okay. Then I take out a Post-it note. And if I'm in a seminar, I'll ask somebody to volunteer. And I'll say, what does the average American do for retirement? And the answers are always the same. 401k, IRA, non-qualified investments, which loops in mutual funds, managed money, crypto, anything like that, any post-tax investment, home equity, real estate, CDs, pension, and Social Security. Those are the answers every single time. So I write them on a Post-it note and I stick the Post-it note up on the board. Then I say, all right, good. Now the hard part. I need you to take the Post-it note and I need you to match it to the 5, the 15, or the 20. And they don't know what I'm talking about. And I say, well, each of these get taxed at a certain level. So I take the Post-it note for IRAs and 401ks and Social Security and pension, and I put them at the 20 because it's ordinary income. You get taxed on what you take out. I take non-qualified investment, real estate, things like that, and I put them at the 15 because you get taxed on the growth. When the exercise is over, what always happens is the 5 is circled, but all the Post-it notes are next to the 15 and the 20. And I say, all right, every single person in this room wanted to pay tax at the 5, but all of you are saving for retirement in the exact opposition to what your tax preference is. Why are you doing that? And the answer always comes back the same. It's what we're told to do. And then I say, welcome to the Great American Retirement Myth. That's it. It's all a lie. It's a lie because it's what the government wants, and they make it extremely easy for the financial community to lead you down that path. There's a reason that 401k contribution and IRA contribution limits increase every year. It's not inflation. They want you putting more money away. They need you to put more money away. That money is theirs. It's a savings account for them. not just for you. So the more you save, the more they save. That's why they make it so easy for you. And the financial industry just leads you down that path because it's what's easy for us. You contributing to an IRA is easy because your accountant says at the end of the year, you need a tax deduction, put $5,000 in your IRA. You call up your broker, say, I want to put an extra $5,000 in my IRA. No problem. He writes a ticket, boom. Easiest sale he made all day. There's no thought, there's no explanation, there's nothing. It's a phone call. Here you go, here's $5,000. Now, if he has 100 clients doing that, he's making decent money. Imagine if he has 1,000 clients doing that. That's the idea of the financial industry. We want the money to come in. We want to invest it. We want to get paid on the investment. We want to get paid on the management. And then when they have to take the money out, it's on them. What they're not telling them is the ramifications it's going to have on them in taxation.
This is fascinating. I don't where do we even begin? I guess we'll begin with the end. So what's the answer? What's the alternative? How do you go into that 5 bracket?
So there are a couple of things. So one is a Roth. Right now, and I preface that by right now, a Roth is not taxable when you take it out. You don't get the tax deduction now, but you put the money in, you pay tax on it, and then it grows tax deferred and you take it out tax free. That's the advantage of a Roth.
But the limit for that's only $6,000 a year, right? Or
In an
$6,600,
IRA, if you have a Roth 401k, it's the exact same contribution limits.
which are
I believe this year was 25-ish, 25,000. It changes every year. I'm not an asset manager. I gave up my variable licenses when I left my broker dealer in 2012 to go into just fixed. So I think it was 24 and a half last year. I think it's going up to 25 and a half or 26 and a half this year. Somewhere around there. I could be off on that number. And then the problem with a Roth IRA is
just to clarify, 26,500,
thousand.
not percent.
No, 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the problem with a Roth IRA is there's income limitations. You can't make over a certain amount of money and contribute to a Roth IRA. There is not that limitation on a 401k. So a Roth is a big thing that we tell people to consider. And I say, I don't get paid on your Roth 401k. That's your 401k advisor. I would tell you should seriously consider putting money in that though. If you're already contributing to your qualified plan, your traditional 401k, you should seriously consider changing that to your Roth option. The other thing that doesn't count is life insurance, and that is taboo in the financial industry. You buy term, invest the rest. Cash value life insurance is not an investment vehicle. Well, it is an investment vehicle. It's a very, very efficient investment vehicle, and the money comes out tax-free if properly structured, which is also the caveat, because just like the financial industry kind of does what's best for them, so does the insurance industry. You have a lot of advisors, insurance advisors out there that are setting up plans that benefit them more than they benefit the client.
So if I'm starting to understand what you're talking about, I think, and I could be wrong, I think that we're starting to lean towards the conversation that I've heard of, kind of through the grapevine here and there of like through buddies. And I would consider myself somebody that's relatively well versed in the finance industry and how things work. And tell me if I'm understanding where you're going to go with this. I've heard that you can essentially the wealthy will use their life insurance as essentially like taking a collateral loan against themselves to some degree, where you have this policy and somehow you take money out against the policy, and that you just kind of cycle it through somehow. I don't totally. Is this kind of the concept you're talking about?
Yeah, I would say you're spot on with the exception of one word, wealthy. You do
Okay.
not need to be wealthy to do it.
The
Anyone
caveat that
can
I
do
said
it.
is that I think that because the wealthy have access to
Because the
these.
wealthy do it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes, but so I'm really interested now on because I've heard about this and I've been recommended it, but it's one of those things. It's almost one of those things where I feel that kind of falls into the category of velocity banking, where it's like you hear about it, but does it actually work?
Mhm.
And is it real, or is it just a YouTube seminar that somebody's putting on? And like so, I'm please.
Yeah, so again, life insurance, cash value life insurance is not the answer to everyone's problem. But for people who are investing a lot of money for their retirement, have extra money at the end of the year, say they've maxed out their 401k, hopefully a Roth, and they have extra money that they're just sinking into non-qualified accounts, they should be considering cash value life insurance. And there's numerous reasons why.
So before we even get into that, can you explain that kind of on a dumber level in the sense of like what is a cash value life
Sure. So
insurance policy?
there's two types of insurance. There's term and there's permanent. Term is exactly what it sounds like. You buy insurance for a certain amount of time, and at the end of that term, the policy goes away. It's extremely inexpensive comparative to permanent insurance. and people buy that for protection.
Permanent would be like considered like full
So
full
yeah,
life insurance.
yeah. So whole life and universal life is permanent. Those are the ones that build cash value.
What is the difference between universal life and whole life?
So whole life it's got everything in it. It's got guaranteed death benefit. It's got guaranteed cash value. You get paid dividends because the company that sells it is a mutual company and your policy is ownership in the company. So you get paid a dividend
Oh, well.
just like a stock would, but in this case, it's the policy. The death benefit grows. At some point in the future, the policy should pay itself up, meaning you no longer have to put money into it. But it is the most expensive out-of-pocket insurance there is because you have all of these protections inside of it. Universal life insurance is also a permanent plan, but the cash value gets credited based on some type of interest rate that gets credited to the account. There are different types. There's a fixed interest account. There's a variable where you invest in mutual funds and the cash value goes up and down with the mutual funds. Then there's something called index, which you invest in an index like the S&P, the Russell, the NASDAQ, and they'll either give you a cap and a floor, meaning 0 and 10, you'll get somewhere between 0 and 10 depending on how the index does. You won't go past 10, but you won't go down. So 0 is the worst you can do. If the index does 6, you get 6. If it does 12, you get 10. If it does negative 20, you stay flat. Or they give you a participation rate, meaning they'll give you a certain percentage of what the index does. So if you have a 60% participation rate in the S&P index and the S&P does 20%, you get 12. Same with a 0 floor.
Oh, okay.
So you don't lose money. That's the advantage of those types of policies is they'll limit what your growth could be, but they protect you on the downside.
This conversation is making me realize how little I know about the insurance industry.
Don't feel bad. There's most of the financial industry doesn't really know how life insurance works.
Sure.
And that's why they just say it's not an investment vehicle. Term's not an investment vehicle. Guaranteed policies aren't an investment vehicle.
So which are the investment vehicle?
Whole life could be. Index universal life and variable universal life. But they have to be designed a specific way. If you're buying a policy as a retirement alternative, there are ways to structure it where it's going to perform better than a normal policy. Inside of a life insurance policy, there's something called a MEC value, a minimum endowment contract. So modified endowment contract. A modified endowment contract says that there's too much cash compared to death benefit. That now gets rid of the tax advantage of the life insurance. Now the money you take out is taxable. So there are these things that we can put on policies called MEC limitations. We can buy a policy. When I do a life insurance policy designed for an alternative retirement plan, I don't ask how much death benefit they want. I ask what their contribution is. So if you know that you want to put $10,000 a year away.
Does the contribution total the cash value? Is that where does the cash value come in?
The cash value is going to be a portion of what you pay into it.
Okay.
So it starts off very, very low. You're not going to have cash value in it for a long time. This is not something where you're going to put money in and take it out quickly. This is for retirement. This is a long play. So when we're designing it, what we do is we ask them what their contribution is. They can say any number they want. $10,000 a year. Okay. So I know that at $10,000 a year at your age and your health rating, the lowest amount of death benefit I can buy is X amount. That's what we buy you. Because the lower the death benefit, the lower the cost of insurance. The lower the cost of insurance, the more cash value you get. The more cash value you get, the more you can take out in retirement. And the beauty of it is you take loans against your policy. And when the company gives you that money, they're not loaning you your money, they're loaning you their money, and they're collateralizing your death benefit. So your death benefit goes down. But because it's a loan of your death benefit, it's tax-free. It never goes on your tax returns.
And then how do you pay that loan back? Or how does
when
that
you
work?
die, that's the death benefit's just reduced. So if you have $1 million death benefit
wow.
and a $900,000 loan, your family only gets $100,000.
Very interesting.
Yeah. What's more interesting is there's this thing called arbitrage. If you have $1 million in your 401k and you take out $100,000, how much money do you have in your 401k?
900.
900,000. If you do 10% that year, you'll make $90,000. So now you'll be back up to 990. In life insurance, that gives you the option to keep the money that they're lending you invested. So I have $1 million of cash value. I give myself
So even if you took out
$100,000.
$500,000, you could still make 10% on.
I can still
on
make
$1 million.
Yeah, so they'll charge me an interest rate, maybe 3%. So now the worst I can do in a year isn't 0. The worst I can do in my year is -3 because I'm getting charged 3%. But if the index does 10, I have a net 7% growth on money I've already given myself.
So I guess to some degree, the understanding that I had was slightly skewed off in the fact that you're actually borrowing the company's money, not your own money, but they're
Correct.
collateralizing the money that you have.
That's right.
My wheels are turning because this is a lot of information to try to I'm trying to process it myself, but also process it in a way that the audience will also, because this is really, I think that this I really enjoy conversations like this because I think that it goes against the norm, and I've always been one to some degree buck up against the system and try new things, even if people are like that's not what you're supposed to do,
Not what you're supposed to do.
even when it makes sense is the crazy thing, like yeah. So I admire what you're doing. Um, so so the benefit would be that, if I'm understanding correctly, in the end, the result would be that you would have this death benefit that you would then take a loan against, essentially, correct?
So you have cash value and death benefit. The cash value is what you're allowed to touch. That's the limitation of what you're allowed to touch.
In what sense?
So say you have $1 million death benefit and $500,000 in cash, you can take up to $500,000 out and your death benefit will go down. The minute you run out of cash value, your policy goes away. You don't want that to happen because then you lose the tax advantage of it. So we always put this protection on it called an overloan protection rider, which won't allow you to take too much money out of your
So
policy to make sure it won't lapse.
when you say take out, you mean as a loan?
As a loan,
Okay. So you can only take out whatever your cash value is.
correct.
And will the cash value always be less than the death benefit?
Yes, it will.
Significantly, or like, can you have $1 million death benefit and a $900,000?
No, you're never going to get it that close.
Okay.
So what you can do, and what we usually do, is you put a death benefit option on it called an increasing death benefit option. So now it doesn't limit how much your cash value can grow, because as your cash value grows, your death benefit grows. So they do this. They'll always stay inside that buffer zone.
What would cause your cash benefit to grow? How does that
So
grow?
in the variable policy, your cash value grows and decreases based on the mutual funds that you pick.
Okay.
In an index policy, it goes up and down based on the index. But it's not actually invested in the index. What they do is they give you an interest rate based on the performance of the index. So if the index does 10% and you have a 12% cap, they'll give you a 10% credit at the end of your year.
So now, who's the demographic that would benefit from this?
For cash value life insurance as a retirement plan, I would say, obviously you can start as young as you want, but realistically, the earliest I've really seen people do it is in their early 30s. Most people are in their early to mid 40s.
Why is that?
It's when people get established, when they have the money now they're contributing to retirement, they're cognizant of what their future looks like, and now they want to start investing. We just teach them, hey, I'm not telling you not to go buy stocks or mutual funds. I'm not telling you not to contribute to your retirement. I'm just telling you, spread it out. Don't put all of your money in tax deferral. Don't put all of your money in Apple stock. Both of those things are taxable. Now, what I talk about with them is the idea behind deferring taxes. And I think it's the biggest scam we have going on in this country.
I wanted to touch on this because I found that really interesting. I found that really, when you mentioned that in the beginning, I found that really, really interesting.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's just not true. Right now, we are at historically low tax rates. The average effective tax rate in this country is the lowest it's been since the early 80s. So now you're deferring taxes. You're not paying taxes on money now at historically low rates. When something's historically low, what's the only place you can go? Up. So now, I'm going to not pay tax on $100 at a low rate. That $100 is going to grow to $300, and I'm going to take it out. I'm going to pay a higher tax on $300.
Most likely will be higher at that point. Yeah.
Who in their right mind wants to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think the majority of society, to its detriment, has a hard time with delayed gratification.
Yes, they like the tax break now.
Yeah.
The accountant likes the tax break now.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh, I got an extra couple grand in April that I get to go on a vacation with.
Mhm.
That I get to, and I think people plan on it, which that in and of itself is a funny concept because what most people don't realize is you just loaned the government however many $1,000 for that year to do whatever they wanted
At
with
no interest.
at 0% interest, and then they're like, "Hey, thanks for your money. You can have it
You
back
can have it
now."
back now. We're done with it. Yeah, no, it's true.
It's really crazy. It is a nice, it is we end up getting it just because of the way with my wife's structure of work works and stuff, and um, but it's not a lot. It's a couple grand, like, but it isn't like, oh, it's nice that we got that at the end of the year. But every year I'm like, yeah, but like,
Could have used it throughout
could
the
have
year.
used, or even if I say it's 5 grand, I could have put however much. What is that a month?
The 400 and
Yeah, 400 bucks,
420. Yeah.
400 bucks a month in an investment every month.
Would have been doing a
That
lot
could have
better.
been made.
Absolutely right.
Like it's just crazy.
No, it is.
And
And
400 bucks a month is actually a decent chunk of change
it's a good amount of money.
that I like could have been in my pocket, but it
If you
wasn't
put
because they,
$400 a month into an average mutual fund, you're going to have way more than $5,000 at the end of the year. Imagine where you're going to be in 2 years. Imagine where you're going to be in 20 years.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we tell people, don't fall into the trap of deferring taxes. The government wants you to do it. If the government wants you to do it, might not always be in your best interest.
Sure.
So there's a whole other side to this problem. We've just touched on, and I touch on this with the clients first. Like, it's not a great idea. But on top of that, there's a whole other problem that no one talks about. And when I say no one, I mean no one in the financial industry. So just a little backstory. I started as a financial advisor in 2007. I stayed there until 2012, and then I left to become a wholesaler. So I gave up my variable licenses, and I went from selling products to clients to working for a company that had contracts with all of the insurance carriers, and I was selling their products to advisors. So I was helping the advisor find the right product for their client. I stayed there from 2012 to 2019, and then in 2019, I opened my own wholesale brokerage called the Integrity Life Brokerage. I was at a Financial Planners Association of Long Island meeting. I had a booth set up, was there all day. There were about 150 advisors there, and I thought, this is going to be great. They're going to come up, they're going to ask questions, what makes me different, what am I seeing in the market? I got no questions. I had nothing. I had nobody visit the booth. I was standing there with my friend from Nationwide. She had nobody visit her booth, and everyone in the industry knows her. I realized, I'm like, they're just here for the CE credits and the free lunch. They paid their money. They got their credits. Now they can get their license renewed without having to sit on a computer and take a test. They got the free lunch, and there's an open bar at 5 o'clock. So I kind of, whatever, I accepted the fact, no big deal. Met a few people, had a couple of conversations away from the booth. After it's all done, 5 o'clock starts and they start the presentations, and it's the mutual fund company. This is why our mutual fund's the best. It's the managed money company. This is why our managed money is the best. It's the insurance company. This is why our variable annuity is the best. So I'm at the bar and I'm having a drink, and I'm looking into the mirror, and it's behind me, the presentation. All of a sudden, this guy gets up with this horrible Boston accent, and he says, "Everyone in this room deserves to lose your license and go to jail." And I near spit my drink out. And it was for the first time today. I was like, all right, I'm engaged. What do we have going on here? And he stands up and he gives this presentation about this truth behind retirement that no one talks about. And it was eye-opening. And I've heard it before, but I never heard anybody explain it to me the way he explained it to me. Or to us, I should say. The advisor sitting next to me was an advisor I'd known for 15 years. Really, really good guy. Very successful advisor. He looks over at me and says, "Wow, I think I should start selling more cash value life insurance." And I said, "I've been telling you that for 15 years. And he said, "Yeah, but you sell it for a living. He doesn't." And all of a sudden I was like, "Oh." He packs up his stuff. He goes to leave. I all but tackle him when he's heading out to the parking lot. I'm like, "I don't know who you are. I don't know who you work for, but we're working together." So we form a relationship. We form this company. He's my partner in the Great American Retirement Myth now. And what he talks about is IRMA. Have you ever heard of IRMA?
Mm-hmm. I don't totally recall, but
Income-related
Yeah.
monthly adjustment amount. And he asked me, he's like, "Do you know about it?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard about it, but nobody cares about it." He said, "That's the problem. No one cares about it." So he educated me on where the problem is going, and it's shocking. That's the basis of the Great American Retirement Myth. Not only are you saving incorrectly now based on every trend that the market is telling us, You're hurting yourself in the future for this program called IRMA that nobody in the financial industry will tell you about because it goes against everything they preach.
Can you explain, Irma?
Yeah, so in retirement, you have one mandatory expense. Do you know what it is? I ask this question all the time, and people say, well, it's taxes. Well, no, you're probably going to pay taxes, but you don't have to pay taxes. There's no law that says you have to. If you make no money, you pay no taxes. But most Americans have automatically invested in this thing called Social Security. Comes out of their paycheck with the promise that they're going to get it back in retirement. People want that money. Government says, no, 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 it's your money. You can absolutely have it. But you can only have it if you enroll in Medicare. If you don't enroll in Medicare and you don't have another form of qualified coverage, which most Americans are not going to have when they retire, you lose your Social Security benefit. You'd be shocked how few financial advisors actually know this. On top of that, do you know how you pay for your Medicare? It comes out of your Social Security check automatically before they give it to you. The way Social Security works is it's a subsidized program from the government. They pay to start off around 75% and you pay 25%. That 25%, your premium comes out of your Social Security check before you get it. So when financial advisors sit there with their clients and they talk to them about, hey, this is what you're going to need in retirement based on your lifestyle. This is how much money we have to provide you, but you're going to get X amount from Social Security. We only have to cover the gap from here to here. What they're not talking about is the fact that you have to pay your medical expenses from there. They're not covering that gap. So now what do you have to do? You have to go back in and take more money out of your retirement account, right? The problem is your retirement account is qualified money. What they do is they look at your adjusted gross income. That's all types of ordinary income and tax deferred income, or tax-free dividends, I should say. So you hear like muni bonds. Everyone says muni bonds are great. They're triple tax-free. They are. State, local, and federal, you don't have to pay. But they're not quadruple tax-free. There's another tax called IRMA. They count towards IRMA. So what the government does is they look at what your tax returns say your AGI was, and if you're making too much money, their subsidy goes down and your contribution goes up. That's IRMA, income-related monthly adjustment amount. So we're looking at what the government is telling us is going to happen to Medicare over the next 30 or 40 years. They've already told us Medicare is going up by at least 7.24 or 26% between now and 2035, just the base premium. Last year in New York, we went from about $185 a month for base Medicare to $206. That's a lot more than a 7% increase. It's about 11. So imagine what happens to the premium of Medicare compounding at even 7% every single year. At 7.24%, your Medicare premiums will double every 10 years. If you're 40 years old now, and Medicare is $206, every 10 years it doubles. So it's going to be $412, it's going to be $824. By the time a 40-year-old is 60, it's going to be $812 based on their projections. By the time they're 70, almost $1,700 a month. Now there's two of you if you're married. That's $3,400 a month in mandatory healthcare expenses. Do you know any financial advisor that talks to their clients about this? They don't, because it's not an easy conversation to have. Now, on top of that, you have this IRMA problem. So now if I have a client that's deferring all of their taxes, all of their income in retirement is going to be Social Security and taxable income. All of it counts towards IRMA. If you make too much money, you're not paying the number that base Medicare is. You're paying it plus some. 200%, 250%, up to 400%. So when we show people these projections, we have software that shows it.
Are you saying that they could be $7,000 a month for a family of two?
Easily.
Wow.
Easily. Right now in New York.
That's based on the numbers you were just saying where it was like whatever, 40 something, 3,700,
Yep.
whatever.
Base Medicare. If a 60-year-old couple is in New York right now, they're going to retire at 67 and they plan to live to 90, for them to be fully insured, meaning that they have a Medicare supplement, meaning that they don't have to have copays, they don't have to have deductibles, they're fully covered for insurance, it's going to cost them almost $1.1 million by the time they die at age 90.
Where does that money come from?
It comes from your Social Security check.
But most people don't have $1 million in Social Security.
No, they don't.
So where does that?
That's what we're telling them. Most people, their only guaranteed source of income in retirement, if you don't have a pension, is Social Security.
Which most people these days aren't going to have a pension.
Most people are not going to have a pension. A lot do. You have your municipal workers, teachers,
guess,
nurses.
sure.
They have pensions still. Great. Also taxable. also counts towards IRMA.
Hmm.
But if you're not one of those people, your only guaranteed source of income is Social Security. And I'm telling you, your Social Security check is going to be much, much lower than you think it's going to be.
Hmm.
But here's the kicker. If your net Social Security check is $7,000 and you have to pay $3,500 for Medicare, you only get $3,500 in your account. You don't pay tax on $3,500. You pay tax on
Of
$7,000.
course you do. Of course you do.
So this is where life insurance and Roth comes in, because those don't go on your tax returns. Well, Roth does, but it doesn't count as taxable. And as of now, it doesn't count towards IRMA.
Hmm.
Life insurance doesn't even go on your tax return. So you can make $1 million a year from life insurance and not pay a penny more than base Medicare.
I have several questions and comments about that. What happens if you decide that you don't want to take Medicare?
Don't get your Social
You
Security.
don't get any Social Security.
Privatize yourself with insurance, so you lose your Social Security benefit that you've paid into your entire life, and you still have to go out and buy health insurance.
Or I'm just saying, like, if like a cop that might be uninsured until he dies, kind of thing, he doesn't get any Social Security benefit then, correct? Because he wouldn't have Medicare because he'd be on the New York State insurance or whatever.
No, if you have qualified coverage, you don't have to get Medicare. But the way those work is they make
Oh.
Medicare your secondary. So you're still on Medicare.
Okay. Which means you still have to pay for
Still
it.
have to pay for it.
Oh, gosh. My comment then is I've been saying this for 15 years. I'm still looking for a legal way to get out of paying Social Security. There's a couple, like I'd have to become like a minister. Like,
Yeah.
that's,
Work for the railroad.
is that one of them?
Yeah, they don't have to pay. They don't pay into Social Security.
I thought about, look, I'm a Christian, so this sounds a little heretical or whatever, but I thought about making the Church of Jacob.
Yeah.
I was like, like
A lot of tax deductions.
yeah.
A lot of tax. So that's one of the things we focus on is tax mitigation. Like,
Because the Social Security thing is just, it
It's
drives
crazy.
me crazy.
and we're never seeing that
Especially
money.
as a business owner, this is a really interesting conversation because this is a conversation that's not talked about a lot for people that think about like starting their own businesses and don't understand this. My wife, who has a W-2 paycheck, gets taxed the 7.2% of Social Security, or what are they called, the FICA taxes, which is Social Security and Medicare. As a business owner, I get taxed at 7.2%, as well as my business getting taxed at 7%. So it's almost 15%
Yeah.
every year that's going towards something that I might never use. And that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It really,
Yeah.
it really bothers me. I'm still
And now
really
think
trying to
about it.
figure out a way to mitigate that.
On the flip side, if you're getting financial advice that's saying defer your taxes, that 15% is going to be way worse
Yeah.
because you're never seeing that money now.
Yeah.
At least by not deferring taxes and getting your tax burden, getting the government off your back before you retire, at least you'll get some of that money back. But the way people plan for retirement, which is the great American retirement myth, they won't.
Can you break that down a little bit?
Social Security is your money.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give it back to you. But before they do,
As long as you play by the rules.
as long as you play by their rules and buy what they want you to buy,
Mhm.
they'll give it back to you less the cost of what you're going to buy.
I didn't know that Medicare thing. That was pretty crazy
Yeah.
to learn that just now.
So they've already come out and told us through their Medicare Board of Trustees report how many people they need to have in IRMA and how much money it needs to generate. By 2031, I think the number is somewhere like 13.5 million people in IRMA, and it needs to generate around $64 billion. Just IRMA, not Medicare.
When you say in IRMA, what does that mean?
Meaning that people are paying the IRMA surcharge
Okay.
instead of just base Medicare. They need 13.5 billion, give or take, by 2031 to be in IRMA. That 13.5 million people has to generate $63.8 billion in revenue. If it doesn't, there's not enough money in Medicare and Social Security to go on.
That's 5 years from now.
It's not long from now.
No, I mean, you just say 2031, be like, oh, that's kick the can down there. That's not that far from now, man.
No. So the biggest problem
So
with
now
it,
what happens with that? I'm sorry to interrupt. What happens with that? Say hypothetically we don't hit that number.
they'll hit it. They have complete control. They pull the levers. They know what they need to hit. They have control of the IRMA brackets. They know how much money people are making, and they just adjust the bracket to make sure they hit their goal.
Interesting.
So they're setting the rules.
So the concern that Social Security won't be here one day is really not much of a concern then.
Social Security is not going anywhere. Social Security
interesting.
and Medicare have the biggest sales force in the country. And the crazy part is they don't even know they work for Social Security and Medicare. It's the financial industry. Because everything the financial industry is telling their clients is helping Social Security and Medicare by deferring taxes that the government now has
Which is
access to.
increases the IRMA because you get paid more later on.
Correct. So what we look at right now is the baby boomers have the largest concentration in wealth in this country. By 2032, 2033, somewhere around there.
Baby boomers are 50 to
Baby
70.
boomers right now are, I believe, in their mid 60s
Okay.
all the way up to their 80s.
Okay.
By 2033, 2034, in that range, the last of the baby boomers are going to hit a very specific age. It's called RMD age, required minimum distribution. It's when the government says you have to take money out of your qualified plans. You can't leave money in your IRAs anymore. You can't leave money in your 401ks anymore. You have to take out X amount this year, and then every year it goes up because you're getting closer and closer to life expectancy, so your percentage of income has to go up. The largest concentration of wealth is going to hit those numbers in about 10 years. We're going to see an influx of cash leaving these plans. Their taxes are going to skyrocket because now you have all this income coming in. They're projected to have around $38 trillion in retirement money for the baby boomers by 2035. Does that number sound familiar to you? It's our national debt.
Mhm.
Do you think the government doesn't know what they're doing?
Help me understand. So, are you saying that they look to plan to pay off the national debt with that, or
They know that they're having all of this money coming in. It's going to create all this tax revenue. They don't care about the national debt going up. It's going to get paid off in 10 years. Between 10 and 20 years, most of the taxes that this country has ever paid are going to be paid.
I'm going to push back for a second and
Mhm.
just say our government has never been one to handle money very well. So, what's to say they're actually going to pay off the debt? Like, why? Why?
You know that term, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he doesn't exist? The greatest trick the government ever pulled was convincing people that they don't know what they're doing. They're
That's
playing
interesting.
3D chess and everyone else is playing checkers. They know exactly what they're doing. They pull the levers. They say, we got to raise taxes to here. We have to lower the brackets to here. We have to increase Medicare to here because we need to make our money.
That, truthfully, kind of in retrospect, makes a lot more logical sense that these people in power, compared to the idea that these people in power don't know what they're doing and just are mishandling. I guess the mishandling concept could go into like the greed concept of like, oh, we're just taking money for ourselves kind of concept. But you're right. Like, it historically does not make sense. They always typically know what they're
They
doing.
know what they're doing.
That's really interesting.
But here's the craziest part, and this is tough for me to say about the government. They're not even doing this underhanded. They're telling everyone what they're doing. They send out a report every year. Just no one cares. We've been beating this drum now. I've been doing this for 4 years. My partner's been doing it for 12, going into the largest financial institutions in the country saying, this is the problem. These are the statistics. This is where we're going. You need to change what they're doing. And the financial community doesn't want to hear it because they would have to admit they were wrong.
Well, I think that's some Greek human nature in the sense of like there are so many industries that are potentially leading people in the wrong direction. Not even just like just take finances off the table in the food industry. There are so many
Mhm.
industries that don't necessarily have people's best interest in mind. And then you have whistleblowers that are saying, "Hey, this is a problem. We should change this. This food is killing people." I'm not even talking about like the fast food. I'm talking about like, dude, I was in a grocery store recently, and there was a sign that said, even I think it was even with organic produce, they are still sprayed with some sort of wax, and it was like the list was like 47. It was like apples and strawberries, and I'm like,
What's
it,
the point?
it was like a petroleum based
Yeah.
wax or something. I'm like, that's crazy that that's even allowed. And like here, people are. It's just. But I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
no, but
digressing.
it's all about money.
Yeah.
They don't have to lose. They don't lose the
All of
product
it's
if they
money.
spray it.
The food industry, the finance industry, so often they're putting the bottom dollar before people.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I've been wholesaling to advisors for a very long time, and I know how advisors think because I know their business. Advisors are running a business just like anyone else runs a business. Their business is an asset that they can sell when they want to retire. That value,
Meaning 1,000 clients or whatever the case may
I
be.
have a book of business. I sell my book of business to a junior partner
Sure.
or to another firm or whatever it might be, and I get paid from my book of business. Assets under management count. IRAs, if you have 401ks, all of those things count. You know what doesn't count? Life insurance and annuities. What are the two things financial advisors say aren't investment products? Don't put your money in that. They're not investment products. It's those two things. Just happens to be that those are the two things that don't have any value in their book of business when they go to sell it because there's not an ongoing sales charge inside of them.
Hmm. What is an annuity?
So an annuity is a contract with an insurance company where you give them a certain amount of money and they guarantee that you get paid a certain amount for the rest of your life. That's an income annuity. Then there are growth annuities where you give an insurance company a certain amount of money and then they give you a way to grow that money, whether it's through mutual funds or indices or just a fixed interest rate. But the taxes inside of it are deferred. You don't owe tax like you would inside of a regular non-qualified account. The reason people don't like annuities is because they're illiquid. You put it in, it's a contract with the company. It's not like a checking account where you can take money in and out. The other problem with annuity is that people say is the taxation. If I take money that I've already paid tax on and I put it inside of an annuity, the growth of it is not taxed as capital gains, it's taxed as ordinary income. So people don't like that. And I get it. You don't want to, because usually ordinary income is a little bit higher than capital gains. Why pay more tax on money I've already paid tax on? But there are caveats to that. It's a very general statement. There are ways to reduce that number. And if you have an advisor that knows what they're doing, you won't end up paying as much tax as you think you're going to pay. The difference is you're not going to pay tax all along. If I have money in a managed account, every year I get a 1099 for that account, whether I take the money or not, because inside of that managed account, positions are bought and sold. That creates tax, a taxable event. If you get a dividend, even if you reinvest your dividend, it's a taxable event. So you'll get a 1099. It might not be a lot. You might only owe a little bit of tax, but you're paying tax every single year. Inside of an annuity, you never pay tax. It's all deferred. So even if I have to pay a little bit more later on, I haven't paid tax this whole time, maybe I'll do it. Not always the case, but maybe. The reason I like annuities is because they're the only product a person can purchase to guarantee they never outlive their money.
Hmm.
It's the only product. They're very underutilized. They have a bad stigma in the industry because people don't sell them properly. They take advantage of clients with them way too often. They need to be understood. You can't put too much of your money in an annuity because it's illiquid. And advisors don't always adhere to that. They put too much in. And now all of a sudden somebody says, hey, I need a new roof on the house. I need $10,000. And they say, well, you can't. Money's in an annuity. So those products, insurance, life insurance, and annuities, generally speaking, are not part of an average advisor's portfolio.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is the goal with the brand of the Great American Retirement Myth?
I call it financial boot camp. Unlearn everything you've learned about finance. Unlearn what your parents told you, your grandparents, your friend, your advisor. Just start from scratch. Take these facts into consideration and come up with your own decision. What makes the most sense for you?
So you're really doing this for the good of the people then obviously you're making money from it, right? But like you could be making more money if you just went with the status quo, correct?
Yes. So
Like it's not like this concept is in it for the money for you. Like in fact, you probably make less money doing this.
yeah, we took a few steps back over the last couple of years because I had a regular insurance practice. I was selling a lot of insurance. I was wholesaling to advisors. I saw this and I said, you know what? I said, this is a problem. This is something that we need to tell people. Advisors, not all. I have tons of really, really good advisors that get this and they talk to their clients about it. And now that I've been educated and I've educated them, they're educating their clients. So when I say the financial community, that's a very
Sure,
blanket
of
statement.
course. Yeah.
There are tons out there that are doing the right thing.
Sure.
But what we tried to do was bring this out on a national level. And we spent a lot of time and effort and money bringing it out to a national level. And we realized the appetite's not there. Advisors don't want to change. And it's crazy. It's not for the reasons that a lot of people think. I always thought it was going to be, they don't want to give the mea culpa. It was my fault. We shouldn't have told you this. The reason they don't want to change is because they're making too much money.
Of course, absolutely.
Why change?
Sure.
It makes sense. I get it. But why? Why am I going to change?
Yeah.
I do this. It works. I'm making a boatload of money. I'm
So
just going to keep doing this.
what's the answer then? Going direct to consumer?
So that's what the Great American Retirement Myth now has shifted to. We're going direct to the public. We're leaving the advisor out of it. We're done talking to the wirehouses. We're done talking to broker dealers. We're done talking to insurance companies. We're
Now,
just going to go to the public and do it ourselves.
it's a book.
I have a book coming out in July called The Great American Retirement Myth. We have, the websites being developed. So what the Great American Retirement Myth is a collection of advisors all over the country that truly believe in this.
Oh, I see. Okay,
So we started it, but through our
I see.
conversations, we have advisors all the time call us up and say, "This is a problem. I believe in this. I've been looking for somebody to finally bring this out. How do we get involved?" So we have a seminar that we have kind of prepackaged that if you're part of the Great American Retirement Myth, you're allowed to do the seminar. We have software that actually we can sit down and show people what their true retirement costs look like. We show that to clients and they're like, "What do you mean I owe the government $1.8 million?" I mean, your advisor didn't tell you that? Your advisor never mentioned any of this to you?
Mhm.
Like, I didn't know I had to pay Medicare. What are you talking about?
Mm.
I've never heard of any of this.
I
So,
would consider myself very well versed in the finance industry, and I had never heard of that.
yeah.
So
So,
the average person, of course, has never heard of that.
never heard of it. So that's our goal is to kind of get this out. We do seminars all over the country.
So to understand a little bit more about the business model, essentially your goal is to educate the public, and then once they're educated, provide them with the providers that will help them get to that
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're in St. Louis. We have this group in St. Louis
That's really cool.
that feels the same way we feel. Give
That's
them a
very
call.
cool. Very cool.
So we have right now we have 8 different firms signed up, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot because we have a good portion of the country covered. And right now with technology, I do business in all 50 states. I don't have to be in Idaho to work with somebody from Idaho. So we have the reason we wanted to spread it out is because we want to be able to do seminars in people's areas.
Mm.
I tell everyone, "Hey, listen, you can buy the book in July and you can spend a few hours reading the book. It's a finance book. It's not going to be, you're not going to be at the edge of your seat, or you can just come to one of our seminars.
Mm.
We're going to cover everything in the book." So people, I'll do the seminar. So that's our goal. We want to start doing seminars all over. We have, a website where people can go get educated, get a report on themselves. That should be launched in the next month and a half.
How does that brand or is it considered a company, or is it a leg of your company?
It's just a brand.
So
So
how does that brand generate income,
so
or is it really just for the
it,
good of the people?
it's not every advisor in it just does their own thing, kind of.
So you're just doing it because you believe in it.
Yeah, we've built this thing called the Great American Retirement Myth. My company, we started it, but we're just a member firm. So the Integrity Life Brokerage is a member firm. So when you go to the website, you'll see all the member firms.
Mhm.
You can click on all, and everyone's got different specialties. We have people that are just investment advisors. We have people that only do Medicare supplements. I only do fixed products, life insurance, annuities, disability, long-term care. So we have kind of all of it covered. So somebody might call up and say, "Hey, listen, I don't need life insurance. I don't need any of those things, but I do have a couple $1 million I want invested." All right, well, these are the people you talk to. These 4 do the investments. Look at their bios, figure out which one you want.
Mm.
And then they do it. It's a membership, it's a collaborative. It's almost like a co-op.
So what's your goal and what's your intention of how do you roll this out? How do you, I mean, you already got people involved, so how do you continue to, what's the plan for that?
So we're doing a lot. We're interviewing a couple of PR firms to kind of work on getting more podcasts, print media, radio ads. We're doing a lot on the social media side once the website is up. I have a team developing the website right now that needs to be kind of up to snuff before we really roll it out. Because on the website, people are going to have the ability to go and enter very, very little information about themselves. This is how old I am. This is how much money I have in qualified money. And this is how much money I have in non-qualified money. And then they can click a button. Actually, we'll take them to the Social Security site where they put in their information and it'll tell them what their Social Security benefit's going to be. And then we put that in and we tell them based on this information, this is what your healthcare costs are and this is what your taxation looks like. And if you want to talk to somebody, click the button.
I feel like you could do even just really well. Like with the, I'm not saying not to go with a PR company, but I'm also just saying I think that just running ads on Facebook.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what we have. The website
your
company is
pitch
doing the same thing.
could
They're
do some really good damage with that. Like even just a couple different pitches of like, just as simple as like, did you know that you're gonna have to pay for your own Medicare? Like, if you'd like more information, click the link down below. I'll explain what that means. And like, I think that I don't know however you want to phrase it, but I feel
Yeah.
like there's so much information, lack of information out there by just sharing any of this information. I feel like you're
People are open to hearing a different idea or concept. We made the mistake of trying to get to them through the advisors.
Mm,
We have to stop doing that. Now we're going direct to the consumer.
mm,
I was in, I think it was Tampa Airport a couple of weeks ago. Was going down there, had a conference down there, and I'm waiting for my luggage to come, and I'm saying there's this giant board,
mhm.
an advertising board. Said, "Hey, advertise here," and they had, a realtor, they had a car dealership, and I saw it go through like 3 or 4 times as I'm waiting for my luggage, and I'm envisioning myself. I just want a giant board in an airport like that that says your retirement is a lie. Go to this website. And I was like, how many people would sit there and they're going to see it 3 times? Be like, why is my retirement a lie? People are interested in that. People want to. They're intrigued when they say they're being bamboozled,
Sure,
and everyone is.
sure.
And when I talk to clients, I mean over and over and over again, and I talk to them about the way they save for their retirement, and they say, "Oh no, this makes no sense." And what kills me the most is they, "Well, can you do it?" I said, "No, it's not what I do. I would love to, but I don't do it. Here's a list of guys that believe this and that you can call any one of these guys. They'll help you with it,
Mhm.
and they're going to use the principles that we're discussing, but I don't do it. But that's okay because, everyone refers around in a circle. So it's fine. I send clients to them, they send clients to me when they need insurance products.
So, what is the takeaway from this episode? What would you the audience listening, what would their takeaway be? What would you want them to hear?
Ask questions. Ask your advisor questions. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You go to a doctor and they give you a horrible diagnosis. First thing everyone says is, I need a second opinion. And the doctor usually says, I think you should get one. But your advisor, who's ever asked for a second opinion on what their advisor tells them?
Sure.
They're not giving you the diagnosis. They're not telling you what's going to happen. They're just going over your symptoms. They're not showing you the end game.
Mhm.
The end game is you're going to have a lot less money in retirement than you think
Mm.
because most of it's going to be going to the government. And it's only because it's the way you're saving. It's totally avoidable. That's the worst part. You don't have to pay any of that money. You might have to take it on the chin a little bit more now, but I ask everyone, when are you going to be in a better position to pay the government? While you're working or while you're not?
Sure.
Everyone says, while I'm working. I said, but everything you're doing chooses to pay when you're not. So why are you doing it?
Yeah, it's fascinating. The last question I like to ask everybody is related to you as a business owner. What is one thing that you know in your career that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I knew it when I started, but it's really, really hard. And it's the way our industry is designed. Our job, we have a job as a fiduciary. We always have to do what's in the best interest of the client. That's what the fiduciary rule is. The problem is the way our industry works is we get paid commission. We don't get salaries. We don't get any of that stuff. So if you're not out there selling, you're not getting paid. I say this all the time and I say it in my book. I really believe that most people, most advisors care about their clients, but they care about their family more. If it's, hey, I got to pay my car loan, and if I don't sell this to somebody, I'm not going to be able to do it. You better believe they're going to sell it, even though it might not be 100% in the best interest. Something else might be better, but you're not going to get paid on that. They're getting the thing that's paying off my car. That's why most advisors, I tell all of my friends and all my family and all my clients, go with an established advisor. And it's simply because they're now at the point in their life where they're not struggling for money. You'll see the fiduciary concern increase with the more successful advisors because now it's like, I have plenty of money. Their concept should be now I can do everything I want to do well for my clients. Not all of them do, but that would be, I knew it. I was, oh, I'll never do that. And then you go through times in your life where you're like, this is hard. If I have no money. Like I can't put gas in my car. How am I going to work? Because it's not an easy industry. It is a failing proposition 75% of the time.
Hmm.
And some people just say, hey, listen, I can't do this anymore and I'm going to leave. And it's what insurance companies love and advisory companies love because now all of your clients are their clients, or you stick it out. And if you stick it out, sometimes you have to cut corners that you wouldn't be cutting
Hmm.
if you had some money in your pocket.
Sure. Very interesting.
So that's the advice I would give to anyone starting in the industry is make sure your head's in the right place and make sure you get a second job. You're going to need a second job for the first 2 or 3 years.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to wait tables and do those things because it'll make you a better advisor.
Very interesting. I really appreciate your time.
No, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The book comes out in July.
July, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
called The Great American Retirement Myth. The website should be out middle of April. It's americanretirementmyth.com. And then the website for the book will be retirementbook.com.
wow, that's a great. Oh,
Retirementmythbook.com.
okay. I was gonna say retirement book. It's
Yeah,
pretty sweet.
retirementmythbook.com.
Very cool, man.
Yeah,
Well, I'm looking forward to. I'd love to read the book.
I'll let you know when it's out.
Please, yeah.